Hello and welcome. As I've read through the Bible in the last several years, there's one subject that keeps reoccurring, and that subject is food. For Adam and Eve, it was about what they could and couldn't eat. For the Israelites, it actually says that God gave them manna to test them. And for Jesus, well, the first temptation was about turning stones into bread. So why so much about food? Well, there's some interesting things that I found as I read through the three temptations that Jesus went through. So in Matthew chapter 4, verse 1 through 4, it says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he then became hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread.' But he answered and said, 'It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God.'" So Jesus, quoting the words that God had given the Israelites in Deuteronomy chapter 8 that were written, he says, "You shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." So God knows that we need food. He made us. He created us. He created this body. He knows that we need to eat. But what does he want us to do? Well, he wants to make sure that his instructions are above what we physically want to do. So what happened with Adam and Eve? Well, he gave them an instruction. He said, "You can eat of any of these trees, just don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." And he provided food for them. All they had to do was follow his instruction. But did they follow his instruction? No. And unfortunately, they were cast out of the Garden of Eden. Now with the Israelites, it said that God gave them manna to see if they would follow his instruction. And what was his instruction? Well, they were supposed to gather enough manna just for the day, not to keep any over the night, because God was going to provide a brand new batch every day. And on the sixth day, they were supposed to gather twice as much, just simply to be able to rest on the Sabbath, or on the seventh day. Did they follow the instruction? Well, some of them did, and sometimes they did, but not all the time. But does it end just there? Well, let's go to Matthew chapter 4, verse 5 through 7. It says, "Then the devil took him into the holy city and had him stand on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, 'If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you.' Jesus said to him, 'On the other hand, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test.'" So once again, Jesus is quoting something that God had told him, that was written down in Deuteronomy chapter 6. "Do not test the Lord your God." So how did Adam and Eve test the Lord? Well, what happened was, when Eve saw physically, with her physical eyes, when she saw that it was good to eat, she went and she grabbed and ate it, and then gave some to Adam. So she tested the instruction of the Lord to see if truly they would die. Well, we know what happened after that, right? They were separated from God. It was like they went from light into darkness. And what happened with the Israelites? Well, it actually says in Exodus chapter 17, verse 2, it says, "Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, 'Give us water that we may drink.' Then Moses said to them, 'Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?'" So the Israelites had begun to lose the trust in the words that God had given them through Moses, saying, "I will take you out of Egypt and I'll take you to the promised land where there will be milk and honey." Food. So they were starting to lose trust in what he had said, and they were going for what they physically wanted. And they lost trust and they tested him. But there's something else that happens. So in Matthew chapter 4, verse 8 through 10, it says, "Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, 'All these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me.' Then Jesus said to him, 'Go, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only.'" Once again, Jesus is quoting what God had said, what was written in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And he says, "You shall only worship the Lord God." That's it, no one else. So what does it have to do with Adam and Eve? Well, what happens is, if they had followed his instruction, then they would have been walking in God's ways. They would have been walking in the kingdom of heaven, in his light. But instead, they chose to do what they wanted to do, against God's instruction. And what happened when they did that? Well, they entered darkness. They started walking in a different kingdom, in a different way. And what happens with the Israelites? Well, this story is a little interesting, because after God had given them manna, and after he instructed Moses to strike the rock so that they could have water, all of a sudden Amalek comes and he attacks them. He fights with them. And Moses says, Joshua, get some men and go fight Amalek. Then it says this. In Exodus chapter 17, verse 13, says, So Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, when we're walking in his instruction, in God's instruction, then we're walking in his light, in the kingdom of heaven. But what does light do to darkness? Well, like a sword, light pierces darkness. So, if we choose to walk in his instruction, if we choose his instruction above our physical wants, about what we want to do, then he's able to shine brightly through us. And like a sword from his mouth, the light, his light, will naturally pierce darkness. And the kingdom of the enemy begins to crumble. Just like Amalek lost to the Israelites, lost to Joshua and the sword that the Lord had given them. Well, I hope that this was an encouragement to you today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon.